It finally warmed up enough to take a closer look at my overwintered colonies. Don't get me wrong, I've been watching them closely. I've looked in from the top and the bottom, determining the colony strength by counting the number of frames that were covered with bees and looking for capped brood. I've also watched the entrances to see how many foragers are returning with pollen. In April and early May, this is all the information I need. But now it's warmer. The bees are bringing in a lot of pollen, and the summer buildup is well underway. The strongest colonies are likely to start swarm preparation in a couple of weeks, so it's time to get more detailed information.
Buzz.
Today, I'm looking at 2 overwintered swarms from last summer. The first one is a great story about how procrastination occasionally pays off. My friends George and Michelle inherited some old boxes and frames last year, but delayed ordering bees until all the packages were sold. They resigned themselves to waiting another year and stacked the boxes haphazardly in their backyard. Then, in June, a swarm moved in. Free bees are the best. I helped them with fall management and winter prep, and that colony overwintered in a single deep box. As you're about to see, they are doing very well. 2 weeks ago, I added a pollen patty and a top feeder. I prefer to use a jar feeder in the spring, but I didn't have an extra one at the time. As you can see, the pollen patty is completely gone. I always start with a quick look down between the frames. I'm getting an initial read on the population and the amount of capped brood and capped honey I can see from the top. I like to use a frame grip to lift frames from boxes. I lift a lot of frames over the course of a season, and the cumulative stress used to make my hands ache. The frame grip is much easier on my hands, and it helps me pull the frame straight up without rolling bees on the wall or the adjacent frame. The glistening cells on the first side are filled with syrup they've stored from the feeder. The cells on the other side are empty. I set it aside to create some room to work. The second frame is nearly full of capped honey, or sugar syrup. It's impossible to tell the difference without tasting it. But let's take a second look at the left side of this frame. The bees are clearing it out to make room for the queen to lay there. I skip the third frame and pull the fourth frame. It has great news. The cells with light brown caps are capped brood. The yellow cells are filled with pollen, mostly willow pollen at this time of year. Most of the uncapped cells have eggs or larvae in them, and the cells with dark brown caps are filled with syrup or honey. It's a great looking frame. The fourth and fifth frames are more of the same, except that there are some capped drone cells on one side of the fifth frame. Drone production on a large scale can be an early indicator of swarming, but this handful of cells, this early, doesn't mean anything. The sixth frame also looks great. I saw capped brood on the seventh frame, but I didn't pull it out. By then, I had all the information I needed. This colony is about to explode. At least 6 frames are partially covered with capped brood. That's more than enough to double the population in the next 2 weeks. I need to add space now so that they don't feel crowded later. So I added another deep box. You may have also noticed that the brood nest isn't centered. It's pushed to the left. That's not a problem. The bees know what they want. As long as it doesn't make my job harder, I let them put brood wherever they want to. Here's a quick look at another overwintered swarm. They made it through winter in 2 boxes, 1 deep and 1 medium. There were 5 frames of brood in the top box. Check out the capped brood pattern on this side and this side. That 3-year-old queen is really rocking it. The frame beside it was also excellent, filled with eggs, larvae, and capped brood on both sides. I took a quick peek at the bottom box. There were plenty of bees down there as well. Looking down between the frames, I could see that the brood nest extended well into the bottom box. These bees are growing fast, but they have more room than the first colony we looked at. I'll check again in a week and probably add another box then. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch my videos.
This is